Yeah, there's more audio there now suddenly. Yay, cool. Um, sure, we're good, I think. Nope, go away. Not that button, this button. Well, drat.
Rebalance your mic.
So the gain is picking up the keyboard, so hey, I don't know what that was, but, oh, wow.
I don't know what you did yesterday with your mic, so I don't know
I
what to do.
didn't do anything
You
over
did,
there.
you-
Nope, nope.
Stop,
All I
stop,
did.
Stop.
They can't hear me.
Stop. They can't hear you at all?
Yeah, they can't hear me at all. Hey, wait. Justin says it's alive. Hello?
You need to fill up OBS. You need to stop playing with everything else. and
Yeah,
fill up
OBS is right here.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Turn that down just a little bit.
This one?
Yeah, that one.
Okay. Is
Not
it
that much.
all right? It's there. That's better. Yeah.
That's good.
All right. Buttons. Hey, I'm live.
Okay.
Yay, it's alive. You know what? I don't know. When's the last time Paranormal Portal had technical difficulties?
Just like last week.
Are they moving in? Yeah? Okay. Buttons. I wasn't sure I was talking about buttons, but okay. So, well, the show tonight, ironically, as I'm sitting here in the studio where we could record music, I wanted to talk about the magic of music and some of the history when it comes to music and paganism and witchcraft and such. So, what we've got going on seems to be just a frustrating thing. So, when it comes to magic, often it is the intent of the musician to convey a message of some sort. Often it is just I'm having a hard time keeping my brain engaged here. This is why other people make the big bucks when there's a producer. Okay, so that's going. We'll see what happens.
What now?
Oh, for some reason, the studio disconnected. So, all right. Well, so with magic, often we are trying to get some sort of intention and message with the intention. And lucky you're typing in the wrong chat room, dear. And it's, not knowing what exactly the original musician's intention was for a story that they may have written. Often we're just left with the words and the melody and trying to figure out what is being conveyed. Because over time, a lot of that changes. Just remember, if you played the telephone game as a kid, one person whispers something in your ear and you whisper into the next person's ear, and it goes on and on and on. And by the time you get to the end, often the the message is extraordinarily different than the original message. Often in a funny way, and sometimes in a scary, depressing way. And it's just this thing, And so, in a way, a lot of our music has changed over the years. A lot of the original songs and such, when associated with paganism or witchcraft or heathenry or any of those, the words have changed over time. And some of it, the language has shifted as well. And and the interpretation has shifted because the original words may have been translated into one language and then translated into another and translated into yet another, and that's kind of what's happened with, say, the Bible, for instance, is originally written in Aramaic. Lots of it were, and that got translated into Italian or German, and then that would be translated into yet another language, and then another language, and then another language before it gets to English. And the word meanings change, and that's part of the reason why when people ask me, oh, should I do my ritual work or my spell work in a different language? Nope, you really need to use the language you're most comfortable with, your birth language, because you understand the words, and a lot of the foreign languages, an individual word may have a significantly different interpretation. And I've used this example before, and I'm going to use it again. The Eskimos have like 24 different words for snow. Now, for most of us, snow is snow, but they have 24 different words. So what kind of snow is it? And if you just use the word snow, they have to interpret it into what else? What else is there? And, you got to make sure you fully understand the language. So when it comes to music then, and a lot of poetry and art and music and song, you really do need to understand what the original intent was, or what the original purpose was. Because some of it, it may have been a parody song. And I've talked about music in the past. I think, isn't it Beethoven that wrote songs about...
Mozart.
Mozart wrote illicit songs
Yep.
and stuff. Yeah.
Well, nasty.
Nasty songs.
I don't think my mic's on.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is. You turned it on.
No.
Yeah.
No, because it's not in the OBS profile.
I don't know what to tell you. You're talking. I can hear you just fine.
Keep going.
Anyways.
Mozart.
So, yeah, so Alan in TFR chat goes, here's some Eskimo words, snow words. Quanok, Kanik, Kanavluk. Yeah, there's a bunch of things that I'm just not going to ever be able to pronounce. But yeah, there's a whole bunch of different words for snow. So, yeah. Aussie said there's a screw loose. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so, if you don't understand the language, it's really hard to understand the entirety of the message. So, with, Mozart writing all the nasty songs, a lot of those were just in jest, and some of them were seriously just poking fun at other people. Yeah. And bards have been poking fun at other people pretty much ever since bards happened. So what is a bard, you might ask? Well, be careful if you Google it, because you're going to get a lot of D&D references, Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot. Define.
Look up troubadour.
Bard. So a bard, in Celtic cultures and other, actually European cultures, is a poet, traditionally one reciting epics and associated with particular oral traditions. And so a lot of the oral traditions passed down verbally, yeah, there's going to be small alterations in words, because that's just the way of it. I mean, look at the way the American language has changed in the last 14 months. There's words that we just don't suddenly use, period, because it might incite a riot.
Yeah, pretty sad, isn't it?
There's other words that have been deemed too racist, that only certain people can use them, but some people can't use them, and it's confusing. And so you have to, in a similar fashion, once upon a time, occasionally words would be altered to convey a different message. Sometimes it would be to, incite violence against an enemy, or to incite patriotism or loyalty to the current, the patriarch or monarch, or, whomever's in charge. And so the job of a bard or troubadour, either one, was to get the message out there and, in theory, do it with honesty and integrity. Again, honesty and integrity only goes as far as, often who is being paid. Who's financing the troubadour or the bard. They had a lot of loyalty to their own pocket. To their guild, yes, but also their own pockets. So, the best information that I've found in talking about bards is actually from druidry.org, because in ancient times...
It's funny, you don't sound like a druid.
I know, right? Well, in ancient times, bards were the keepers of tradition. They were the memory tribe, if you will, memory of the tribe, custodians of the sacredness of the word. Although they probably represented the first level of training for, say, an apprentice druid, or an apprentice in any of the different traditions, in part because a lot of the basic lessons were done in a prose format, because prose is often easier to remember. Think about some of the songs that we learn as children. There is a rhyme or rhythm to them that enables us to remember the song better. I mean, the alphabet. Can you say the alphabet without singing the song?
Uh-huh.
Not everybody can. I know you can, because you're stubborn that way. And yes. If you are having problems memorizing something in school, often they tried to put some of that information to a song or a melody of some sort to help you remember it. I remember my first Spanish teacher. We called her Maestra. She was the crazy cat lady. She tried to help us remember pronouns, and she would do this like hula dance thing, which was kind of scary in retrospect. And she would sing I, you, he, we, they. I, you, he, we, they are pronouns. And it was like, yes, we know they're pronouns, but it was a mnemonic device in hopes that we would remember.
Mnemonic devices, yes.
And mnemonic devices are used all over the place. How often do you try to remember a name by giving it some sort of association with something else?
Sorry.
Yeah, I know. You worked all day and stuff. And you don't sleep and stuff.
And stuff and things.
Yep, stuff and things. So, but yeah, those mnemonic devices often involve some sort of rhyme or specific rhythm. And with the bardic traditions, yes, pronouns. Yep. There were quite a few different levels of accomplishment. It was brain cramp. An apprenticeship type situation. Often, there's an apprentice, a journeyman, a master, and the most skilled of bards were held in very high esteem, and were part of both the ovate and the druid traditions. And the training of a bard was very intense and often lasted for many years. And I'm just reading from the site here because it's really good information. I'm not going to reinvent the wheel. I am going to include links, of course, in the show notes, just like I always do. But between, the northern British Isles, there's some variations in the curriculum, of course, and the way they taught and the different words or different lessons. But a student would go from a principal beginner to poet's attendant, apprentice satirist, And then from there, they went on, but during this time they would learn grammar, several different stories and tales, and also the Ogham tree alphabet, which in and of itself is just, it's another one of those fascinating things. So with that, I'm going to stop there because, hey, it's our first break. We spent about 10 minutes on trying to figure out why the technology didn't work. It's because we're in North Idaho. And so we'll be right back after the break, and we'll continue talking about the bardic traditions and a little bit of druidry and some music stuff. So we'll see you in a few.
Try again.
Hello? Can anybody hear me now? Hey!
Next time unmute your mic.
I did unmute the mic. Hi. Can you hear me now? Yep, they can hear me now. Yep. Alan goes, this is a rerun while on YouTube. Paisley is frustrated over technical issues. Yes, there's this definite banghead here moment. I did hit the button. Anyways, so yeah. Talking about the bardic traditions.
Good night, Deb.
Night, Deb. Oh, yeah. Maybe I should have had more coffee. Anyways, so the first year of the bardic training was often extraordinarily intense because there was a lot of basics that needed to be learned. Some of that was just how to learn. Because until someone became an initiate into the bardic traditions, often they were working the farm. They didn't have much of an education. They had to, learn how to read and write and understand the information itself. In addition to learning a lot about the druidic path, and so there's, religion involved in learning about, being a bard also. And once the basics were done and learned and, ingrained, from there, the next 4 years, the students had to learn an additional 10 songs or 10 stories, and about 100 different OM combinations. And for those that wonder what OM means, it's spelled OGHAM and it's pronounced OM. And it's a tree language, totally 100% druidic, because it is the language of the trees. And
explain what the tree language is.
So, the different OM combinations were often symbolic of different trees, and it was a early medieval type of alphabet, and it was used in the early Irish languages, and both the early Irish, the old Irish, in like the 4th and 6th centuries, that kind of thing. And each the language itself would be a center line, and the different words or messages would be dashes and cross-hatching along those lines. And often they were built to look like a tree. And so for me, I think of it as a tree language because a lot of the symbolic information that you see in OM definitely resembles a tree, like the willow or oak or maple. And even though technically it's not, a tree, it looks like a tree. So language of the trees. And the combinations, just like any other language, they're quite hard to learn. I mean, for a lot of us that speak English, it's kind of like learning Mandarin and learning how to write the different
Symbols.
Kanji and symbols.
Kanjis and symbols.
And it's an entirely different way of thinking and communicating. Or Egyptian pictoglyphs. I mean, those are. There's a fish there. What's the fish mean? Well, the fish could mean this or it could mean that. I don't know. Is it pointed left? Is it pointed right? Does it have a fin? I mean, there's a lot of other information there that if you don't understand the nuances, you wouldn't have the full message. But over the next 4 years, they learned those OM combinations, philosophy, so that they could, communicate well and spread the philosophies and such. And also not just the stories, but poems, lots of poems, and then grammar and the law of privileges. The law of privileges. Let's see. I'll give you the specifics. Just
The law of what?
Privileges.
Oh, okay.
Which, man, you trying to find that? It's like, what? It's the right of attorneys to speak with their clients and keep the silence and hold the secrets close. So in a way, a lot of the first bards were also very much like a priest for confessional. And so if they were asked to carry a message, say from one monarch to another, or one leader to another, they would hold that message without sharing. They were committed to it. There was not a lot of, they weren't prone to gossip. Well, they would gossip, but the secrets, they were secret keepers. By the time they'd been in training for about 6 years, they would be called a pillar, and they would study more poems, they would learn more stories, and as they kept going, they would understand prophetic invocations, how to create poems, and in the last 3 years, they would become basically the doctor of poetry, and they would understand composition, and they could rattle off like 100 different poems and 120 different orations, and they would understand and be able to repeat about 350 different stories. And these aren't like small tales. This would be like epic battles. Think the Iliad, for instance. They would be able to perform that orally and in front of an audience, and sing songs, and just entertain people. Often they carried a branch, a silver branch or bronze branch, depending on where they were at. And the branches had bells to them, so that as they would stroll into a hall for a monarch or an important personage, they'd be accompanied to the sound of bells, which would warn the audience to hush and be quiet, and to also, in the ringing of the bells, to summon help from the spirit world or the inner realms to help their poem or story be communicated to their listeners. It was a very rigorous training mentally, and it was just, I think it's just bloody fascinating, because the information that they had to shove in their head that was so outside of what they may have grown up with was huge. I mean, today, entertainment is literally at our fingertips. Turn on the radio, use your phone, TV, internet. You walk into almost any retail facility of any kind, and there's music going, or announcements, or a TV playing, or something. And so all these forms of entertainment are all around us. Books are all around us. Movies are, again, at our fingertips. And so all of that entertainment is just easy to achieve. The first, second, century, entertainment was, doing chores by candlelight just before you went to sleep, or telling stories that you made up yourself. There wasn't a lot of books. The average person couldn't read. If they did read, there might be one or two books shared in an entire community. I mean, they were a form of wealth, basically, because they were heavy to carry around, and often if a trader is coming into your community to sell things, well, for the weight that they are carrying of, say, 5 books, wow, you can get a lot of salt, or herbs, or teas, or pins, or nails, or anything like that you have a greater value than a book that the average person could actually afford. In a way, so Justin in the chat goes, mainstream entertainment is becoming more like propaganda. Actually, that entertainment, mainstream entertainment, has been a propaganda source pretty much forever. You know, even the bardic traditions and the messages that they would bring to the different villages and communities would, you know, a lot of that would also be propaganda in nature, because, hey, you know, we're going to change the words of this song to make this monarch or this knight or this, you know, leader in the community sound better. So some of the songs or some of the poems they had may have had blank spaces where they could fill in the name or of the leader that they were in front of or around. It's like, hey, this is, you know, we're in the hall of, you know, Ulrich the Good, so we're going to sing his praises with this poem because, hey, we can put Ulrich the Good into the blank space. Or if, you know, you're trying to incite a war with your neighboring kingdom, it's like, well, Hrothgar the Bad, you know, he's a bad guy. He does all these things that are bad. It's bad, bad, horrible, horrible. And hey, Ulfgar is really good. So, you know, it's sometimes those fill in the blanks were there as well. So yeah, propaganda is something that's been around pretty much forever. There are quite a few records from the Western Highlands in Ireland that show how much work was undertaken to teach the bardic traditions. Often there is a type of sensory deprivation where like the accommodations were extraordinarily Spartan. There is a lot of time spent learning by rote or memory. I mean, teaching mini-me has been interesting because there's a lot of things that I just learned by memory when I was her age. My addition, subtraction facts, the times tables, that kind of thing. We just did those over and over and over again until they stuck in our head. And honestly, I like math, so it wasn't that hard. But it's, you know, a lot of what she's learning is, hey, well, you have to look at these different quantities of things to really understand what you're trying to do. And it's been a little bit frustrating because I just want to teach her to memorize things because that way she knows them.
Yeah, but if you learn something by rote, a lot of the time it comes out as programming, in my opinion. So, you know, that's just me.
Well, for instance, I can do the times tables 0 to 9. Excuse me, 0 to 10. Yeah, 0 to 10, real easy. But I would get my assignments done, and I'd be bored, and I'd be staring at the wall, and I'd just learn them. So, yeah, it's just, but then Mini-Me, she learns differently than I did. And holy cow, some of the concepts that she picks up as if they were nothing is a little bit insane because, oof, yeah. Kids these days, they learn a little differently than we did 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago. Yeah, 40 years ago. So, the folks that were learning how to be bards were not just learning about stories and poems and music. They're also learning about inspiration and recording history. They were to record the lore, the laws, and the genealogy of the different tribes that they encountered. And it was just another way of keeping those traditions alive and functioning regardless of what's going on in the world around them. It would keep the tribal lore or the tribal heritage and traditions alive and thriving for, you know, the generations that were coming later. Also, because they became familiar with the power of words, they understood how to manifest the ability to become inspired by what they were speaking or singing, and to inspire others, and then also to carry the records of the tribe. They needed to know the different stories and poems which preserved lineage, for instance, and the lore of the people. And in order to become masters or mistresses, they had to, be able to compose their own poems and tales, sometimes on the spot, because you had to just be able to pull something literally out of your hat to entertain the people around you that would not, rock the boat if you're trying to prevent a war, or to, keep the masses entertained. And because they were so focused on this, the rhythm of the music, or rhythm of the word, and the musicality and everything, often they would develop inner powers because they were so focused and devoted to their path and their tradition, that it would unlock something within their brain that they were able to develop a stronger memory, or be able to almost impact their crowds psychically, either illustrating the stories with the words, and not necessarily empathy. What's the other word? Empathic. They could push the emotions, excuse me, out, so that folks would understand or feel the stories as well, not just hear the words but feel them. And Druids and the bardic traditions were around for centuries, long before Catholicism or the church took over and started changing things. But as Christianity took over, they understood that a lot of the oration habits and traditions of the Druids and the Bards were really, really important, because even in the Bible, in the St. John, the words of St. John in the Gospel, says, "In the beginning was the Word," and Word is capitalized, and because the Word itself could create, command, nourish, heal, cut through, purify, invoke, unite, provoke, deter, and bind the people around them. I mean, think about it. When people say, sticks and stones might break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Yeah, okay, that's a really cute little saying, but if you've ever been the victim of a bullying session, or being put down by someone else, or people talking smack about you at work, or you're not friends saying stuff about you, you know what? That hurts. And sometimes the pain of the words are actually more painful than the physical damage that sticks and stones might cause you, and because it's a more lasting injury. Or if someone says, "Hey, you did a great job today," it makes you feel pretty doggone good and gives you that boost of self-esteem and positive energy. Or if someone says, "That's not a good idea, I just wouldn't do that," so you're being deterred. Or it's like, "That's a great idea, we should totally do that, let's start tomorrow and get it all done." That's a way of encouragement. Or bind, swearing an oath is a big deal. And back then, oh yeah, your oath was your word, and it was a very solemn vow. Unlike today, it's like, "Yeah, I'll get it done, I promise." How often does that happen that it just doesn't happen? Or we have to have our contracts now in writing and signed and notarized, and
and by an attorney,
notary, possibly in blood, sometimes fingerprints, DNA sample, that kind of thing, to make it a binding contract, because a lot of times people just don't stick to their word anymore. So it's it's not the way it was. It's just the way it is.
Well, and
now.
that's where the idea of spellbound. You became spellbound by the song or the story that the person was telling, and this, that, and the other. And you were, like you said, they pushed out the feeling, the empathy. They made you feel it, and that's was their job, and that's the magic in it.
Yeah, absolutely. Spellbound. I forgot about that. Yeah, spellbound. If you were spellbound by a song or a music or a
play,
movie or
opera.
a play, opera. Oh, some opera is just fantastic. Others is kind of like fingernails on chalkboard. Like a good performance is a good performance.
Like the Pirates of Penzance. Freaking love that.
Some of them are flipping awesome, and others are just like, oh, we're doing this again. But on the edge of their seats, they're waiting for the next. Well, part of it, we're a little jaded because everything's at the touch of a button. Oh, I'm going to fast forward through this part that I don't like, or whatever. Once upon a time, you couldn't fast forward, and yes, you had to wait for intermission to get to the next chapter. I perhaps one of the reasons for modern or contemporary humanity's sense of alienation that we're dealing with, and even though the world is a lot smaller than it used to be, is that we've kind of cut ourselves adrift from the natural world and the roots of our past, and the things that caused us to be us or led us to be us and who we are today. The bardic traditions, yeah, those are real. I wish we had a bit more of that today. That training that, can you think of it, the music that would be out there if they had this kind of training instead of just anybody picking up a microphone and recording an album? Oh, my stars.
It's like this YouTube rap stuff. Half of them can't sing anyhow. They just use auto-tune so much. They just...
Exactly. So, hey, guess what? We're at break. We'll be right back.
Songs
lovelies. This is Paisley Wild, and we're off adventuring into the spaces between. Hopefully, we did everything right, and everything will hear. So, it's singing bowl time. See how it goes. So, yes, a little bit of bowl time. Yes. I love my singing bowl. I hope it all came through. Yeah, so tonight we're talking about music, specifically Bards, the magic of music. Bespelled. Holy cow, talk about a word that... Bespelled, yeah. Imbued with magical power, enchantment, and charmed quotations. So yes, charmed quotations. Sometimes it's like rain, go away. Little Johnny wants to go out to play, or something like that. Where you say, rain, go away. I want to go out to play, or the different sing-songy chants that we might say. If you put your intention behind it, instead of just being a little chant, it becomes a true intent, and our intent powered by our own internal energies, or channeling the energies around us, becomes a spell, if you will, a little bitty ritual. And so from here, I want to transition into pagan music specifically, because as a pagan, I've been talking to some local folks. I really wish that I had a group of people that I could sit around a campfire with, or just a bonfire, fire pit, whatever, and just plink on a guitar, bang a drum, and have kind of a get together and sing. One of my favoritist scenes in favoritist scenes in a movie was from The Postman, when he is in the little community, and after they get done eating, they're sitting around the fire and they're just singing songs, and it's that sense of community and togetherness that we really don't have stuff like that today. Not like that. I mean, here in Sandpoint, generally speaking, we have something called Music Fest, or Festival at Sandpoint. And if you've ever seen a romantic comedy where people are listening to live music and having a picnic in the grass, that's actually what it is. It's a picnic in the grass. You can bring your own adult beverages, or you can buy them there, bring your own food, or buy
Have
it
done
there.
several times.
Yep. Sometimes you have to wait in line to get in, because, yes, it's crazy. You can sit on the grass, you can sit in the bleachers, you can have chairs depending on where you're at. And they have had some pretty big headliners.
ZZ Top was here 2 years ago.
Yeah, it was ZZ Top. Was it Bare Naked Ladies? No.
Yeah, they were here. Yeah.
I like them. They've, just sometimes it's musicians that are not A-listers or have never been A-listers. And some it's, folks that are kind of on the decline, or, new up-and-coming groups. And it's fantastic. And, the being able to just sit there and enjoy the music is, to me, I think is awesome. And I wish that was something we could do more of, that gather around the fire and, just enjoy music. Music is food for the soul. Mini-Me has been plinking on the piano, and she's learned Mary Had a Little Lamb. She's also got a little recorder, which she's actually not too bad at it. She'll just sit on the stair landing and play little tunes she just kind of makes up as she goes along, and she has a good time doing it. She toots her own horn on a regular basis, and there's just something fun and freeing and emotive when it comes to music. But then I'm a band geek. I played a variety of instruments growing up: flute, piccolo, oboe, bass or contrabass, clarinet, and percussion, and all sorts of different things. And I enjoyed it, every single minute of it. I learning the new instruments. I loved learning the music. I was in pep band and jazz band, and I did solos and all that. Loved it. Didn't really enjoy marching band so much because I have a hard time marching in step. But the music, love the music. I love the power and the strength of a good marching band. Oh, talk about giving you goosebumps. But it's, to me, having a brass section pop and nail the notes and the tempo and the beat, that there's power there, there's energy there. They've talked about making energy weapons and sound weapons. I mean, there is significant energy there. Justin mentions Danheim in YouTube chat. Danheim's pretty awesome. There's quite a few different pagan groups out there that are pretty fantastic. Now, when it comes to pagan music, there's as many different styles of pagan music as there are pagans. There's, Scandinavian thrash metal bands with Asatru roots. There's some pagan groups who insist on living their life by the old rules, kind of like Danheim, and recreate the music of the ancestors. They use traditional instruments and sing lyrics derived from ancient sources. I mean, when I say traditional instruments, it's a lot of times it's kettle drums made out of trees or antlers, or handcrafted bells or handmade hand drums, that kind of thing. In addition to wood flutes like the Native American flutes, that kind of thing, very very similar. But from there's folk, neo-folk, folk rock, goth rock, hard rock, dark wave, new age, trance, neoclassical, heavy metal, Celtic, folk rock, etc., etc., etc. There is so many different types. I mean, Don likes certain types of music. Yeah?
Yeah.
I could see you listening to some of this and liking it, but a lot of it you'd be like, do we have to listen to this?
Well, I remember we were sitting out on the back deck like 2 years ago, and I was playing. Was it 2 years ago, or was it just this last summer? And I was playing that folk metal, and it was.
Some of it is really good.
Yeah. Anyhow.
Yeah, some of it is extraordinarily good. Some of it is like, okay, go back to your garage. You're not ready for prime time yet. That, or I haven't had enough mead. But there's, regardless of what kind of music you like to play or to listen to, there's gonna be a group out there performing it. Period.
Bohemian Rhapsody is great, but unless you listen to it in the original Klingon, it doesn't matter.
Original Klingon. Isn't there a death metal band in Seattle that sings only in Klingon?
Yes. As a matter of fact, the singer's he's a one-armed Klingon. He's clinging on for dear life. Oh, geez, yeah, no, that's right. Yeah, there is.
So is that traditional Klingon music that he's
That
singing?
would be traditional Klingon music. Yes.
So I listen to a rather wide variety of music. Pretty much anything goes for a period of time. I'm not really into rap. It's just not my jam. I've tried some of it, occasionally, but generally, no. Yeah, I just know. But I do have quite a few different, musicians on my playlist. But and depending on what I'm doing, I listen to different kinds of music. I think we all do that. And sometimes, we listen to music to help restore our faith, or in our path. Sometimes it helps restore our fellowship, you know, especially if you're like a solitary practitioner and you need to feel like you're connected to yeah, your traditions. Vlash says, how about death rap?
Nerdcore is actually pretty good.
There's all these words that I didn't know I needed to know. Nerdcore? Death rap? I swear, y'all are speaking a different language. I'm originally from Iowa. We don't have these words there. Do-re-mi. I can do do-re-mi. So, but, if we're feeling down, we listen to music. If we're feeling up, we listen to music. A bad breakup, we listen to music. We meet someone and they're awesome and we feel that really great connection, we listen to music. You get out of get off work and you're driving home and you're just going into a 4-day weekend, you're listening to music. It's probably going to be something very upbeat. It's, the different music. There's proud songs and sad songs and dancing songs and morning songs and songs for meditation and songs to dance and songs that just express
songs
joy.
for revenge, best served cold.
Yep, there's those too. So, if you want it, pagan music probably has it. Germany, actually, there's a special name for pagan music in Germany, or German, as a Mittelalter, Mittelalter, Mittelalter. Basically, it features medieval folk music merged with metal. Apparently, it's a really good combination.
Probably.
Maybe, probably. Yodel music. Yep. Yodel music. Yeah, that's. Yep. Music can definitely be viewed as inspiration for one's spiritual path. Corinne Nightshade in the chat, and Vlash says yodel music. Yeah. I'm not very good at yodeling, but yeah, there's all sorts of different types of music out there, and music and rhyme and rhythm are honestly ancient ways of attuning our soul's vibration to the higher powers or the higher spirits. That's why a lot of spells are actually in rhyme, and that's why pretty much every human society that's ever existed has made some sort of music. Not always good music, but some sort of music. And so the most elemental form of music, and probably the first one out there, is drumming. Just stick on a log or stick on a rock or on your desk or whatever. You're just bang the drum, and it's drumming and drumming circles are just a really powerful way to raise energy. A lot of shamans use drumming as a tool in their work. It's the repetitive beat of a drum can echo a human pulse, and it can draw us back into like the time we spent in our mother's wombs or listening to her heart. And now as pagans, we're actually listening to the heartbeat of Mother Earth. And drumming can help us connect with that beat. So if you've ever been to, say, a tribal get-together, a powwow, the drumming circles, they've got the drums going and the prayer chants, and I don't know about anybody else, but it's hard for me to not at least tap my toe to the drums. Because it's just, there's a connection to it that you just can't fight. It stirs the blood. which is the whole purpose of a lot of the chants, especially as they're gearing up for like war bands or hunting or something like that. It was, to get the blood flowing, to get that energy flowing. And so shamans then have also used drumming in their work. They might play bodhrans, which are traditional Irish drums, or other hand drums, because drums can help lower stress. So if you're feeling stressed and panicky and someone's playing a drum, and you start matching your breathing or your heart rate to the drum as they slow down the beat and the tempo, suddenly your heart rate slows down or your breathing rate slows down, and it starts to calm you and help you center. Sometimes drums can help just straight up lower your stress. They can quiet the constant chatter in our heads, balance our energies, and encourage our creativity. Sometimes, depending on the age of the drummer, it can be like fingernails on chalkboard, though, and drive you insane. Yeah, the pitter-patter of little feet sometimes is the stomp-stomp of insanity and chaos. Someday I may have to have a pair of cats, one named Insanity and the other one Chaos, because that's what cats do at 3 o'clock in the morning. Drumming, in theory, can help alleviate chronic pain, because, again, you're being attuned to a different rhythm than what your body has become accustomed to. Rhythm itself just helps with meditation. It's a lot easier to get into that meditative trance while listening to drumming. And, if you're not someone who can drive a drum because you don't have rhythm, I get it. But there's quite a few YouTube videos out there with drumming. You can buy drumming CDs. You can download drumming. There's all sorts of different drumming combinations, and they're just a really good backdrop to, say, ritual work, especially if you need something that's measured in and needs to be at a specific pace. Because, sometimes you don't want to rush through something. I mean, for me personally, when I first started doing the show, I probably talked too fast, in part because I wanted to get so much information in an itty bitty bitty teeny tiny amount of time that I was just trying to get it all done. And now I've got a little bit longer time to do the show, which is great because I don't feel as rushed, so I can slow down my speech. But I still, every so often, I have to remember to slow it down. If I don't get it all out in one show, I've got another show tomorrow night, as long as it's a Friday. If it's a Saturday, I'll have another show next weekend. It's okay. I can, leave a hanging chad and we'll pick it up on the next one. So it's a real thing. There's a very magical component to music also. The different types of musical instruments can also correspond with the cardinal elements. For instance, drums for earth, flutes are very definitely an air instrument, stringed instruments resemble fire, and bells or cymbals are water. And each of the different types of sounds can help attune the mind and soul with the properties of those different elements. So drums, great for grounding. They help you stabilize your energies. They're great for healing. Flutes can inspire greater psychic sensitivity, attune the mind to the spirit. They can spark creativity. String instruments like guitars or lutes can inspire passion, raise energy, and enhance courage. Bells and cymbals shimmer and flow like water, and they can augment spells and magical work revolving around relationships and matters of the heart. Regular Girl says, I've found rhythm to be the most difficult thing to teach people by far. Yeah. So, total band geek. In marching band, they even gave me a drum, which I still giggle about a lot because this white girl ain't got no rhythm. And I acknowledge that, and I'm okay with it. So why they gave me a drum, I don't know. But it does make me giggle now. Because rhythm is hard. If you can't find the rhythm, it's a little bit harder to learn the music, unfortunately.
I have Johnny Cash playing in the back of my head. Thank you.
Why?
Play a rhythm. When you get the blues. God dang it.
Okay.
Ah.
You're weird. Regla says, yeah, it's like they can't even feel the rhythm in their body, and it's possible they can't. I mean, I've had people come into the store and talking about singing bowls. It's crazy. There's one gentleman. He'd been in a pretty major car accident or motorcycle accident and had a lot of scar tissue in one arm. Basically, from his shoulder to his wrist was a lot of scar tissue throughout his arm and his muscle, and it impacted his ability to use the arm. Well, that's kind of what happens when you have an accident. And so as you play a singing bowl, often there's a really big vibrato or vibration that you can feel in your hand, and I'll have folks touch the back of my hand that is holding the bowl. And so with the hand that was not damaged in the accident, he touched the back of my hand, and he could feel the music and the vibrations from the singing bowl throughout his whole body, right up until it hit to the scar tissue. And so we tried it with the other hand, and he could feel the vibrations in his fingertips, but anything past his wrist he couldn't because the scar tissue is in the way. And we kept doing it with or playing different singing bowls and listening to them because they all have a little bit different pitch and tone to them. So it was crazy because by the time we had gotten through most of the different chakras and the different notes, he was starting to feel some of those vibrations through the scar tissue then because sound was healing him slightly. And that's just all there is to it. Yes, Schumann frequencies are quite awesome, Vlash. So many different gods are actually associated with musical instruments. Apollo, for instance, plays the lute, and music is one of his domains. Hathor, the Egyptian goddess of love and beauty, is closely associated with the sistrum, which is a type of rattle. It is used in her temples during worship services. Angus, the Celtic god of love, plays the harp. Bards are again very sacred in the Celtic traditions, and so Pan is also famously tied to his Pan pipes, and flutes and woodwinds are tied to Pan in many of his different guises. So we need to remember that music is vibration, just like energy. And so an important part of meditation and ritual is really truly attuning to the vibrations of the witch or the caster with the vibrations of the universe, which then empowers a lot of our spell work or our ritual work. And the higher vibrations connect with the higher levels of energy, and the higher the vibration, the closer you are to the divine. I mean, if you are worried about your ritual or your spell work, doing what you want it to do, you need to make sure that you yourself are operating at the right energetic frequency. That's part of the reason why I talk about intention so often when it comes to doing a ritual or a spell work of any kind. If you don't set your intention correctly at the beginning, you're blocking some of that ability to attain the right level of energy to trigger or to have the spell work or ritual go correctly. And it's frustrating when you go to the effort of doing something like a ritual or a spell and it doesn't work out right. Well, because a lot of times preparation, there's materials and there's tools, and it flops. A lot of times it's because your intention and your own personal energy that you were putting into the spell wasn't as much as it should have been. You weren't truly committed to it. And if you're not going to truly commit to it, why are you doing it? I mean, honestly. So there was a counterculture movement that started in the 60s, and it brought a lot of the pagan songs out of the shadows and into the light where it thrives today. And occult studies started becoming more widespread, and people have started to expand their worldviews and expand their minds. I mean, if you stop and think about it, would the material in my show today, as we talk about paganism and witchcraft, be as accepted in, say, 81 as it is in 2021? 1981 versus 2021. What do you think, Mr. Don?
New Age.
I still don't think it would have been as accepted.
Mm, no, it would have been fringe, but very fringe, but it would have been accepted by a large portion of Yanni listeners.
Ye- Yay!
Jean-Marc Aujar,
Yanni's my hero.
Shadowfax. So there was in '81, but yeah, no, not like blatantly out in front. You know, it'd be, it would be the very very fringe counterculture. So
Yeah, very, very fringe. So, yeah, very fringe. So paganism has flourished quite a bit in pop music and rock and roll. There's quite a few bands out there that are openly writing pagan-based lyrics. Led Zeppelin's Jimmy Page did some. Beatles, Alice Cooper, Black Sabbath, Blue Oyster Cult, Rolling
very
Stones.
Blue Oyster Cult, yes.
They dabbled either a bit or a lot in the occult.
Their Blue Oyster Cult had occultic or paganism, more occultic actually, but on their album covers.
Oh, hey, guess what? Let's break.
Oh, thank
It's our last break. We'll be right back, guys.
Mother of darkness, mother of light, earth beneath thy soul in flight. So
of the shining moon, heaven, earth, and sea, I call upon you in this hour, bring magic unto me. Brothers, oh, the cauldron cries, it singeth unto me the songs of Mother Goddess and the Father in the tree.
Hello, my lovelies. This is Paisley Wild, and we are off adventuring into the spaces between. Tonight, we're talking about the magic of music and the power of the bard. Not the bard, but bards in general. Yeah, it's, you know, it is interesting the different vibrations and and the energy that the different instruments have. Earlier, I mentioned the power of the brass section, the trumpets, the trombones, the tubas, and how in marching band, at least, as the brass section nails a certain, note, there's building up, and then just it's that pop of sound that just kind of reverberates around, the football field, and it's just that power and that energy. In concert music, the symphonic type music, often, there's the leading up to the crescendo, or that building up of energy. It's you start with the low music or the low sounds and the slow pace, and you start building and you go faster and you faster, and the volume increases, the drums beat louder and stronger, and it's just that pop of energy. And good symphonic music, good concert music, good marching band music, any of that stuff, when they nail it even just a little bit, you can feel the emotion and the energy behind it, the power of the music. Maybe that's just me being a band geek, which could be, but there's definitely something to be said about magic, and the magic of music. Just even today's symphonic type music. Listening to a good opera.
You mean like symphonic death metal?
I didn't even know there was a thing called symphonic death metal. See, look, I learned something. Symphonic death metal is real. Okay. Okay.
Tossing it out there.
Yeah, I feel like I need to be making notes so I can write some of this stuff down and actually go back and listen to it, because symphonic death metal.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, then. Yeah, sure. Marie says she loves music but can't hold a tune.
Yeah.
I understand. That's what drums are for. For those of us that can't hold a tune, sometimes we need a drum. We can bang the drum, or the cymbal, or more cowbell. Sometimes you
Speaking of Blue Oyster Cult.
sometimes you just need more cowbell. You just do. So if you are looking for pagan music or pagan inspired music, YouTube is going to be your friend. You can Google pagan music and you will come up with different bands or groups. Like Arcana is a neoclassical group in Sweden, for instance. They do a lot of instrumental stuff, but some vocals. Danheim is one. Yeah, they're pretty awesome. Damn the Bard. So Dave Smith is Damn, D-A-M-H, the Bard. And he's actually a Pendragon in the Order of Bards, Ovates and Druids, so O-B-O-D. He's kind of a big deal. So if you really want to listen to something he's pretty fabulous. Let's see. Fawn is a new one. Well, not new, but they formed in '98. They play medieval-inspired dark wave and pagan folk. And they sing in several different languages. That's something else that I kind of find interesting. Is a lot of these, to me, foreign bands, because they're from Europe. they are not just singing in their native tongue, they also sing in English and then a whole variety of different languages. I feel kind of like I was robbed of something growing up because I wasn't taught so many of these different languages. I'm just saying. Let's see. Incubus Succubus is one. They're a pagan goth rock. They've been called the zombie Fleetwood Mac, is their claim to fame. Fleetwood Mac, actually,
Yeah.
would be one.
Anything, Stevie.
Yeah, Stevie Nicks is very much a witch. Let's see. There is others, of course, and just pagan music. I originally looked at pagan music to sing because I wanted to learn some, and that's a little harder to find. But there's all sorts of different, lists of music and such. I mean, here's a list that's 7 songs you should add to your pagan playlist. First one is "We Won't Wait Any Longer" by Gwydion Penderwin. Pentherwin. It's not my language, so it's a pagan national anthem in theory. Often played during Samhain or Beltane. Magick by Gypsy. Gypsy has a really fabulous voice. We Do Not Die by Velvet Hammer. Interesting lyrics. There is no hell, we do not die. We are not gone, we are alive. We're just on the other side. We are not dead, we are alive. We do not die. Which, to me, is kind of an interesting thing. Because so many folks do come to paganism or because of death and understanding death wanting to understand
Or
death
becoming unafraid of death.
Exactly. I mean, death happens to everybody. It's not something you can really get out of.
It's the only way we get out of this thing.
And so sure, you could fear it. I mean, Christianity, they teach you to fear death because, well, if you didn't dot all your I's, cross your T's, sign on the bottom line, and highlight and do all the other
Hail Marys.
stuff, you're going to hell, and hell's a bad place. Well, in paganism, you're just going from one life to the next. You're walking through the door.
I'm going to name this one.
You are?
Yeah.
What's you gonna name it?
What do you think? It's a friggin' raven.
Oh, is it Hugin? Or Munin?
I'm going to name this one as well.
Is it the other one?
Yes.
Okay.
I got a pair of ravens behind my shoulders.
Yep.
Anyway, sorry.
No, you're fine. So Spirit of Albion by Damn the Bard is another good one. And yeah, he's Damn the Bard is very, very much influenced by ancient myths and legends of the British Isles. So kind of an odd duck, but he's got good stuff. Christians and the Pagans by Dar Williams. It's there's an example of one of his songs, the Christians and the Pagans. So the Christians and the Pagans sat together at the table, finding faith and common ground the best that they were able. And just before the meal was served, hands were held and prayers were said, sending hope for peace and earth to all their gods and goddesses. Honestly, so Hectic Eclectics is our public get-together up here in Sandpoint. And before COVID, we had coffee about once a month. And our very first coffee get-together, here we are, a bunch of pagans and witches sitting around and drinking coffee. And right next to us is a Bible study, a men's Bible study. And you know what? They talked about God. They talked about sin and their religious stuff. They had a little bit of a prayer. And you know what? We talked about witchcraft and paganism and the different deities that we work with. So pagans and Christians in the same building talking about our own paths, drinking coffee. There were no fights. There's just more of a "Hey, how's it going?" type of thing. Now, I do believe they, if I remember right, they offered to pray for us, but we offered to do a spell for them in exchange, and they weren't quite as excited about that, but, they just kind of backed down from the praying for us, so that worked just fine. So, another song that you might want to add to your playlist is Burning Times by Charlie Murphy. So, it's a little bit different type of song. Some of the lyrics is, in the center stood a woman, equal with the others and respected for her worth, one of the many we call the witches, the healers and teachers of the wisdom of the earth. Which the lyrics are pretty fab. But the song itself is a message of forgiveness and acceptance, understanding and gratitude. And when you're talking about the burning times, that's a big one. Finding forgiveness and acceptance. You don't see witches getting in line and talking about reparations and
deliverance.
Paying back what's owed from what happened and before, and the ostracism that we've had to deal with, which in a way was as bad, if not worse, than what some of the other groups of people out there crying for reparations had to deal with. The next one is Deity, Wendy Rule. Couple of her message is pretty clear on this one. I am the maiden, I am the mother, and I am the crone. So if you work with any of the triple goddesses, that would be a good one to look into. So that's just a basic quick list. I'll have a link to that. Another one that is interesting is when it comes to paganism, a lot of times our music shows up during funeral rites or death rites, because when our spirit passes from this world to the next, a rite of passage of some sort is needed to help the transition, not just for the one that's passed, but also for those that are left behind. And often that funeral rite gives closure to the family and friends, and it helps the spirit of the person that passed make the transition from this plane to the next. And so during that, having those ceremonies, whether it's the passing of family or friends or even your animals and pets, there's songs about making peace with death, which is often hard, because a lot of us, we just don't understand death or why it had to happen, especially in some of the ways that it happens. You can Farewell My Familiar honors the passing of an animal companion. There's for a lot of us, our pets, they're not just our pets, they're family as much as, or if not more, than the family that we were born to. For a departed family member, it may be Your Voice Still Lingers. It's a really pretty any emotive song done by Crow Women, which is they're kind of a fabulous group. And it's just often we can communicate or express the full range of emotions that we're experiencing in music that we have a hard time verbalizing in speech. How often do our loved ones or significant others come up to us and start singing, love ballads? They really don't.
Like Erotic City by Prince?
I don't even know the words, so I don't know that I could answer that one. I'm gonna say probably not.
Probably not.
Just a hunch. Just a little bitty hunch. And they don't. My brain just shut off. We also, you know, really outside of like Christian churches, for instance, there's not a lot of songs of praise in celebration of, you know, the sun rising or spring or the different events that happen. Here in the U.S., we generally have patriotic songs around the 4th of July, but even that is almost a dying thing. I mean, Auld Lang Syne is one that's traditionally sung for New Year's. It's, you know, there's different songs that come up throughout the year that, you know, are pretty symbolic of the season, but then there's also just, yeah, there's some music that just we don't hear anymore. Like we aren't currently experiencing an active wartime in theory here in the U.S. So a lot of those war songs that were created in the 60s, in the 70s, we just don't hear them. Those messages just aren't out there. So, you know, the energy just is different. Here, there is, in the U.S., there's a solid history of witchcraft in music, in our contemporary music. So Baba Yaga, for instance, was a Slavic deity. She was kind of a forest witch, but she was also scary as all get out. And there is a German psychedelic band who called themselves Yaga. And they made all sorts of different songs. One of them was The Hut on Fowl's Legs. It's because, well, Baba Yaga's house was supposedly on chicken legs.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
Um,
I forgot about that.
yeah. Creedence Clearwater Revival. Born on the Bayou.
Yep.
There's let's see, Black Cat Bone, Root Doctor Blues, the Voodoo Blues. I mean, there's all sorts of Big Bad Voodoo Daddy or whatever is what the
You're talking about the ska band, big. Well, there's Big Voodoo Daddy, and then there's
it wasn't
Something
ska.
Wolf.
It was contemporary swing type music.
ska.
Oh, was it
Yeah,
ska?
it was neo ska. It was neo swing. Yeah.
Neo swing, yeah.
Yeah.
But Fleetwood Mac had Rhiannon, and let's see. There's another one. I'm just kind of Kate Bush.
Kate Bush.
Waking the Witch.
Yep.
Radiohead had Burn the Witch. Let's see, what else is there?
Lamb of God was originally called Burn the Priest.
Yeah. So here's a funny thing. In 1999, George Harrison was attacked at home by a man who believed the Beatles were witches who flew around on broomsticks.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yep.
And Paul died in a car crash in 1963.
Yeah. Well, I suppose he's flying around on a broomstick. Let's see. There's a couple other ones in here that stand out. Yeah, Rob Zombie's American Witch.
Yeah.
There's a band called L.A. Witch. Jeff Buckley, Witch's Rave. The line there is, your witchcraft's all around me and your ragged pagan scene. Yeah. Let's see. Lamb of God is badass. You guys are goofy. I have the Witchy Woman by the Eagles. That's a big deal. I remember that one. So, yeah, there's all sorts of different types of music that were done by different bands that, you know, both current or contemporary and older, that definitely had pagan tones to them. But in the 60s and 70s, occult and witchcraft records became kind of a bizarre thing. A lot of the spoken word LPs included narrations of rituals, which kind of weird, like The Art of Witchcraft by Babette. Oh yeah, Jethro Tull, Songs from the Wood. Yep. Justin says Slayer hippie here. There's, oh gosh, Capitol Records released Seduction Through Witchcraft, which is kind of odd to me. But even in England, up until 1951, they had laws that prevented the practice of witchcraft. But as soon as the counterculture took over and witchcraft became the big deal, they changed it around because, hey, they were trying to keep up with the cultural upheaval. So, music started that, the cultural change or the cultural phenomena that was communicated through music, especially the 60s and 70s was very, very powerful, in part because they used real words and they had a message, unlike a lot of contemporary pop music. But yeah, there's even Gerald Gardner. He released an album. Let's see. The Aleister Crowley and Underground Film and Music showed up in Kenneth Anger and Led Zeppelin. What's that? Oh, Stevie Nicks.
Stevie Nicks' Belladonna LP.
Don has a Stevie Nicks Belladonna LP. I see Fleetwood Mac with a bunch of penguins on it too.
Yeah.
So yeah, Don has LPs. Yes. But anyways, there's, if you look back at some of the albums released in the 60s and 70s, there is rituals and such in the albums themselves. And they talk about how to invoke spirits and the cone of power and different rituals and demonology and
Gollum.
Gollum, yeah. All of that, how to communicate with spirits. And it was just kind of crazy that all of that stuff was just, hey, it's out on album.
Rush had their Hemisphere album. They had Dionysus on the Hemisphere album.
Yeah.
They also did the Battle of somebody else. I can't remember. I don't know why I can't remember. Anyhow, sorry.
So, yeah. Even Satanic Mass was recorded live at the Church of Satan in San Francisco. It was released on LP. That was, when was that? There's not a date on it, but I mean, it's, seriously? I mean, everybody, it seemed like anybody who could drop an album was doing it. Kind of like today, but it took a little bit more marketing. So, yeah, but music, they're trying to communicate their message or spread their message using music, rhythm, tempo, beat, rhyme, and it's kind of just crazy to me how much power there is in music, in communicating with music. Being a band geek, it shouldn't be that surprising to me, but at the same time, empires can fall on music just because there's so much energy can be put into music. For those of you who've seen The Hunger Games, when she whistles the little melody, the da-da-da-da, or whatever it is that the Mockingjays do, in a way, that was very symbolic of the fall of the regime. Mm-hmm. And, we just see it as, oh, hey, it's a cute little melody as the theme song, right? Well, in a way, that same kind of thing can happen in real life. The anthem, the Star-Spangled Banner is an anthem for the U.S. I mean, every nation has an anthem of some sort. If you've ever watched the Olympics, when the folks are getting their gold or their medals, the anthems of their nations are played to celebrate those particular nations. And it's supposed to invoke or evoke patriotism. And and a desire to, be a part of that particular nation. Now, some of those folks say, nope, we're going to nope out of here and we're going to go to the U.S. where we're a little freer, which may be more challenging in the future. We'll see. Or less challenging. I don't know. Depends on who you talk to. But the energy of those songs. I mean, the true patriots, they feel the energy of that song in a positive fashion. It's uplifting and it's energetically awesome. For those that are anti, well, not so much. They make them in green stuff instead. So, on that note, it's the end of the show. Can you believe it? It's been a quick 2 hours. For me, anyway. I think Dawn wants to take a nap.
Yeah.
So we're off for the rest of the night. We'll see you guys tomorrow night on Saturday night, Sunday morning. So merry meet and merry part and merry meet again. And thank you for being patient for all the oopses and stuffs. I hope you guys have a fantastic night. We'll see ya.
I, O Lord, within the sun, as we will, so mote it be, the spell forever done.